Welcome, everyone, to Nerd of the Rings. We are honored once again to be joined by Mr. Alan Lee. Alan, thank you so much for joining us again.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, lovely to see you.
Yeah, you as well. You as well. Well, we are here to talk about a number of things, but one of the most recent things that you've been attached to is this new clamshell edition of the Lord of the Rings, and I feel like I'm getting a bit of a workout holding it up for the camera just now. This is a pretty impressive package here that you've been working on, and you've done some new pieces for it as well. So what can you tell us about working on this new edition?
Well, yeah, it is quite an object. I haven't actually seen it myself yet, so I'm looking forward to getting hold of a copy so I can work out as well.
Yes, right.
I think we all need that, don't we? Something to kind of
keep us in shape. That's right.
Yeah, keep us in shape. Yeah. But well, it wasn't my idea. It was somebody Harp Collins came up with this idea of this particular box, and yeah, I like the idea very much. It's just a different way of different place to hide your books away,
right?
And it makes it more of a kind of a treasure. I think it's
yes,
yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, and the piece that we have pulled up here of Lothlorien. Let's see if I can do this without spilling the books all over the place. I'm going to try to lift it up. So it is the inside of the clamshell. So as you unfold it, so we've got that piece because it's much easier than me holding this up the entire time. We've got the piece up digitally here. So what can you tell us about this particular new piece that you've done on Lothlorien?
Yeah, well, I was quite keen to do another take on Lothlorien that sort of it hints a little bit at the way we represented it in the films, with the the suggestion of the lights in the trees, and there might be some architectural forms in there as well, but also just making sure that you establish the flet as being the sort of the central image.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed painting that. That was done unusually for me. That was done in Photoshop entirely.
Really?
I would normally do a painting and then maybe process it a little bit in Photoshop, but that was done using the same method that I used on the films for the designing effect shots, which is basically just using Photoshop as a painting process. And you just kind of start painting like that. You can keep on enlarging your canvas, of course. So you just kind of start in one little spot and then just kind of build it up and outwards and upwards and downwards. And so creating quite a kind of panorama.
Yeah. How do you find working digitally, as someone who's worked so extensively traditional means like pencil and paper? How has that been, migrating over, from time to time into digital?
Well, yes, it's something I've been doing since I worked on the Lord of the Rings films, because once we'd finished on in the art department, I moved over to the visual effects department. And then I had a crash course in working in Photoshop, because we were just dealing with filmed material, so it didn't make sense to kind of redraw something that had already been filmed. So you would take the shots with their huge amounts of green screen in the background, most of them, and take out the green screen and just paint in, separate the foreground from the green screen, and then paint in what you imagine will be in the background. And so I did that. I did a huge number of effect shots designs on those films, and just became very familiar with Photoshop, and found it it's such an intuitive process once. But I use probably about 2.5% of what Photoshop is capable of. I just limit myself to the brushes and layers, and I don't try to do anything clever with it.
I would imagine, being able to zoom in, like you said, and work in such fine detail. Like that's got to be one of the biggest differences. I would imagine it'd be pretty easy to get lost in, finding yourself zooming over and over again. Like you could really, not limit yourself, I guess, on how much time you spend.
Well, yeah, I mean, these days I'm either reaching for the zoom button on the computer or for my glasses, big magnifying glasses, because my eyesight isn't what it was. So when I'm working in traditional materials, I tend to work larger now than I did before, just so that I can get into the details.
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, it's fun just being able to focus in on small areas and then zoom out again and seeing it all kind of crystallize.
Now, the Clamshell Edition, for folks who aren't familiar, this is a limited edition. There's 1,000 copies. So once those are out, they are gone. As of last that I checked earlier today, there are still some available. And they're all signed by Alan. And that honestly, like one of the first thoughts that came to my mind, from our previous conversation, you had talked about illustrating right up to the deadline in the wee hours of the morning. I'm wondering which is more draining, to try to get a piece done on the last day before a deadline, or sitting down and signing your name 1,000 times.
Well, there's a secret to doing those limited editions, in that you have to open every book.
Right. Yeah.
Which would take about 10 times as long to do it that way. I mean, I've done a lot of that in the past, but nowadays they think ahead and they send me the sheets which I sign.
Yeah.
And then
they get bound into the book.
I send them back, and they do the numbering and put them in the books. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you break it up at all? Like, do you sit down and sign a couple hundred and then give your hand a break, or are you just like powering through?
Yeah, I'd say I probably do two or 300, and then one drop and do something else and come back to it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I've bought a house before, so I feel like I'm signing 1,000 times, but I know it's not literally 1,000 times. You've literally signed it 1,000 times. So
yeah.
Now, so obviously we see the Lorien piece here. We've got some other pieces to show off. This is another one from in Lothlorien that you're kind enough to send over before we hopped on here. What can you tell us about this piece?
Well, I actually did this one for the Folio edition originally.
Right.
It's a frontispiece in the Folio edition, and then we reused it in this edition, and so now it's found its way into the body of the book itself. So it's gone from being an extra kind of decorative frontispiece to actually being part of the illustrations.
Yeah.
And it's the fellowship as they make their way up into Lothlorien, up through the malon trees, and establishing the scale of those trees. Kind of a nice,
I was just thinking
nice
about
prospect.
that. Yeah, they're very big. Yeah.
And getting the fountain at the top there, and some light suggestions of buildings in the trees as well.
We'll get to some of the prints that are included in this set as well. You mentioned before how you're almost always in portrait mode. So it's kind of fun to see. Like, I would imagine it's a nice change of pace when you get to go more square or even landscape.
Yeah. Any opportunity to do a landscape format picture is always welcome, actually.
Now, here we have another obviously iconic moment. We all know Balrog and Gandalf facing off at the bridge of Khazad-dum.
Yeah. Yes, I think this is probably the first time I've done a proper kind of painted representation of that moment. And yeah, it's just such an iconic classic. I think everyone's had a go at that particular moment in the story, and so I thought I ought to.
Yeah, I was curious. This, like you said, this one is one that so many people, I feel like, any artist, a lot of them, probably one of their first things that they want to do is the Balrog and Gandalf, just because the meaning and the iconic nature of that moment. And so you see so many different angles and perspective, kind of camera angle, what I would call it, perspective, that you're taking on the piece.
Yeah.
How do you go about, do you sketch out thumbnails to think of like what angle you want to take a piece from, or what's kind of your process there as you're planning out the piece?
Well, something like that. I think it was always going to be roughly that that kind of composition, because you can get a sense of the depth into the architecture, and also the drop below. You can get a more kind of a more dramatic viewpoint if you imagine you're a camera and you kind of tilt the camera so you get some extraordinary kind of perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
But I tend, when I'm working in books, to try to keep the uprights fairly kind of vertical, kind of a little bit kind of formal in a way.
Yeah.
And sort of and I think it's partly trying to kind of preserve a kind of a classic look to the pictures. To get some kind of really interesting angles, it might work in a book where the paintings are kind of more integrated into the design of the page, if you know what I mean, like going across a spread or whatever.
Yeah.
But where you got this fairly kind of classic format with a picture within a board or within a page, it just feels that that's kind of setting up an architectural quality to the image.
Yeah.
And so I kind of tend to stick to that, really.
Yeah.
But I think this is one where the vertical format was actually useful, because it allows you to kind of really suggest something of the depth of that drop.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think it works so well in this. It hammers home that it makes me feel nervous about that narrow bridge much more than a lot of times, it kind of just cuts off at the bridge. It doesn't really show the depth, but this piece really helps you appreciate the fall that they're about to go on.
Yeah.
And then we've got Éowyn and the Witch King, another obviously classic moment.
Yes, and this was again, it was another opportunity just to. I think when I originally did the Lord of the Rings, because the pictures were going to be in particular places in the text because of the way that it was bound, all the picture plates were printed onto, kind of inserted into the text in a way in which it wasn't a matter of choosing the text that you wanted to illustrate. It's a matter of making an illustration for the place where the art paper was going to sit. So I always want the pictures to follow very closely the text that they're actually sitting opposite. But with the way that this is printed, I have a little bit more choice, because we don't have that kind of special art paper limitation anymore. So, and this is just one of those moments where, again, it's one of the great classic kind of highlights of the story, and I felt I really wanted to have a go at it.
Yeah. Really like how Minas Tirith is, between the opening of the wings here, how those kind of frame out Minas Tirith.
Yeah.
And then I always, whenever I see a Eowyn and the Witch King, I always look for Mary.
Yes,
it's like my version of Where's Waldo. Yes, yeah, he's right there.
Yeah.
And then we've got Theoden and Snowmane, and the banner of the Red Serpent.
Yeah. So there's a bit of an Oliphant there in the corner.
Yes, yeah. Very unfortunate soldier here under the head of the Oliphant. Now, I'm curious. We talked last time about when you were introduced to Tolkien and when you got into artwork. What are some of your favorite books for the artwork in particular? Do you have some favorite illustrated editions of books that have inspired you, or that you just enjoy taking in the work?
Yes. So I really like those artists from sort of what they call now the golden age of illustration, which is Arthur Rackham and Eben Dulac.
Okay.
So I collected a few Eben Dulac books quite a few years ago, before they became too expensive, and obviously, he did a lot of real kind of classic works, like the Arabian Nights. The one I like best is The Tempest, Shakespeare's The Tempest. I don't know if you know that book, but I just love his illustrations. I love his watercolor technique, and I'm just pore over these books and trying to work out how he did what he did, And then I would go to the Victoria and Albert Museum and ask if I could see some of his originals, and they would bring them out, and you'd sit at this desk with the Eben Dulac original in front of you, and just kind of peering at it and trying to work out how he got those wonderful techniques. So that was always very, very inspiring. Yeah, and Arthur Rackham's Ring, Wagner's Ring. And they're such brilliant drafts people, and the thing with Arthur Rackham, because his style is so distinctive, anytime you put pen and ink and watercolor together, you're just kind of asking to be compared to Arthur Rackham. So I did a few pictures like that, but I tended to gravitate more towards to M. Dulac. So those are the ones that spring to mind.
Now, I mentioned this earlier, but this new edition has some art prints with it. We've got Assault Upon the City, which is in Minas Tirith, obviously there. We've got Helm's Deep. We've got The Black Rider, which I think we talked about this piece actually on our previous chat. The one that really jumped out to me, and I just love this piece, is The Forging of the Ring. And so we've got little bitty Sauron up here in Mount Doom making his ring. And I had told you before we started recording, I've just been like staring at this image. I absolutely love this one. So this is a new one, correct, that you did for this edition?
I didn't do it specifically for this edition. It was actually done for the it was the lining of a box.
For
the folio.
For the folio, yes.
Edition. And so that was an interesting process, because obviously the picture was going to be folded.
Right. Yes.
So you're representing on one surface, representing 5 sides of this box.
And again,
And
you got to do in landscape, which I think that was another reason why it really stuck out to me, was because I, have come to expect the portrait. And so whenever I see a landscape of yours, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I imagine you had to restock your orange quite a bit in this.
Well, I don't know, if you're in Mount Doom, can you have too much lava? I'm not sure. Really.
I don't think you can. Yeah. Now, we've talked, obviously you've illustrated just a ton of Tolkien's world. And last time I'd asked you if there was something that you wanted to illustrate that you hadn't done. You had said, you feel like you've pretty much done everything. Is there a location or character that, is your favorite to do, that, maybe you've done multiple times between films and books and you just can't get enough of it? You just love doing it every single time?
I can't think of a particular character, but it's the landscape, I think, of Middle Earth that continues to kind of fascinate. And so the forest. Yeah, I think I'm always drawing Mirkwood. Whatever I'm doing, it kind of turns into Mirkwood very easily. So all the forests of Middle Earth, and it would be nice to do more landscape format, actual landscapes. Yeah. No, it's going to continually kind of fascinating, really, because it's Middle Earth, but it's also this Earth. It's everything that I put into it is kind of drawn and filtered through my experience of landscapes, and in particular, local landscapes. I live on Dartmoor, and that's very inspiring. And there's some very wonderful, twisted and woodlands, very quite kind of almost supernatural spaces. Lots of wonderful rivers. So, that's really what I love painting, and the fact that there's so much of that in Middle Earth. It's a real kind of dream come true, really, for me to be able to be in both worlds, to be in this beautiful world and in Tolkien's beautiful works. Yeah,
that's great. Now we also have some of your book header images. Now you talked before about how you like to have the illustrations match the page that they're opposite of. When it comes to the chapter headers, I would imagine, are you going for kind of the big moment, the vibe of the chapter as a whole? What's kind of your outlook toward?
Well, it's really it's more or less thinking about the start of the chapter, where you are in the story. Yeah, and you just want the image to be appropriate for that. So here, this is it's not really obvious, but I
believe it's Departure of Boromir, correct?
It's the Departure of Boromir. So it's the river. Mm-hmm. And I've got there's Boromir's broken horn on one side. Yeah. In fact, on either side. And we don't see Boromir, but we just see this bird flying along the river, and I just thought that was a nice kind of image to sort of suggest his kind of soul taking flight.
Yeah. Then here we have, I believe this would be the chapter of the Uruk-hai. Yeah. So we've got the white hand there. Yeah. So this is the company taking away Merry and Pippin here.
Yeah. And again, this one's fairly obvious.
Taming of Smeagol. Yeah. And at first glance, I didn't notice Frodo or Sam sleeping down here. Actually, at
Yeah,
first
you're
I
just
was
seeing a
focused
tiny.
on
I know
Gollum.
that's why I wanted to show you these, because it's so small in the book that you might kind of overlook
Miss
it.
it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, they're tucked away in the corner there.
Yeah. He's got his frying pan. And then this one, I believe. I went back and I was trying not to look at and see if I could guess which chapters it was, like based on book 4 chapters. So I believe this is Dead Marshes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're underwater with the corpses.
Yes. Yeah.
In amongst the reeds and the water.
Right. Yeah. The wavy the waviness of everything, it made it give that underwater impression.
Yeah.
And then for the arachnophobes,
yes,
fair warning. Yes, we've got Shelob's lair here.
Yeah.
It took me a while on this one. I actually, I knew roughly where it was just because of it being book 6, and so I believe this is Many Partings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the mounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Rohan.
Covered with the flowers.
Yeah. So this is probably around Theoden's funeral, when they take him back to Rohan. This is a moment that we don't often see illustrated, I feel like. It's kind of after the fact. Yeah. And at the bottom, I think you can just see a little bit of the entrance to a tomb. Oh, yes. Yeah. And these just a couple of icons for the title pages of the books. Yeah. So this would be Return of the King. We've got the white tree. You can see. Yeah. And then we can see that outline of the Rohirrim here. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to just create pictures out of negative shapes. Yeah. Yeah. I always enjoy that. Yeah. Yeah. Now we've obviously talked about the extraordinary illustrations and the number of illustrations you've done on Lord of the Rings, and I've noticed, typically, and rightfully so, when we get like a Lord of the Rings illustrated edition, the main focus is on concerning hobbits to the Grey Havens. But there's looking to, I don't know, maybe future projects or something. There's quite a few stories in that appendices area. Are there any of those that you are maybe drawn to or have your interest piqued by, thinking of things like Tale of Aragorn and Arwen, or stories about the Witch King of Angmar when he's running Angmar? There's dwarven history. There's some stories in dwarven history. There's so much, isn't there? It's wonderful. Yeah, there's a lot of little juicy bits in those appendices. Are as a Tolkien fan as well as an illustrator, are any of those things that kind of pique your interest maybe someday? Yes, well, I really enjoyed working on the Fall of Numenor with Brian Sibler's version of the kind of retelling, really, of the part of the, well, really it's kind of based on the appendices, on the Tale of Years. Yeah. And compiling Tolkien's Second Age together, all in one book. So that was really interesting. And I think there's there's more to do in that kind of area as well. Yeah. I mean, it's just such a huge encyclopedic world, isn't it? That so many wonderful stories to draw on. Yeah. Now you mentioned last time, you tend to take a sketchbook with you when you go out or you're traveling in various places. What's your favorite thing that you've kind of stumbled upon just as you're out with your sketchbook that's inspired you, or that you've drawn just kind of out of the blue?
Well, more often these days, I take my sketchbook with me to a cafe and sit comfortably and just draw out of my head, rather than kind of sitting, getting rheumatism in a damp forest, which is which I used to do a lot. So I've done a lot of drawings of this place called Westmont Wood in the middle of Dartmoor, which is one of those very it's quite a special habitat. It's actually it's quite a rare area of what they call Atlantic rainforest, and it's very damp. It's covered in moss and lichens, and yeah, it's just very, very atmospheric. So I've done a lot of drawings there, and I used to take my sketchbook down to the river or down into a wood late afternoon, early evening, and I'd just sit and draw until it got dark. And I would literally be drawing until I couldn't see the page anymore. And of course, what happens is that when there's plenty of light, you're putting in all the details, and then everything kind of consolidates into areas of sort of kind of like masses of shade where you can't really see very much.
Yeah.
And so it becomes kind of broader and more atmospheric. And it wouldn't be until you actually got home and had a look at your sketchbook that you could see what you've done. So yeah, I used to do a lot of that, but I think because I just feel I've been kind of busier more recently. I haven't had quite so much time for walking, and but I still draw. I draw every day essentially. I go up to this local cafe and sit and have breakfast and do a drawing.
Yeah.
And maybe a drawing will take 2 or 3 breakfasts to finish, but it's a nice kind of habit.
Yeah.
And I always draw in a very sort of intuitive, free-flowing sort of way. You know, I won't actually know what I'm going to be drawing until it starts to take shape before me, and then it gets quite kind of highly developed.
Yeah. Now, is that you know, are you, when you're drawing, is it always for, you know, work purposes, or do you draw for pleasure a lot still as well?
No, it's entirely for pleasure. I try not to think about work when I'm doing those particular drawings.
Oh, great.
Because as soon as that's finished, I close the book and come back and start drawing, start thinking.
Then you draw for work. Yeah.
It's a kind of warming up.
Yeah.
For the day. Yeah.
Great. Now I did not recall this myself. This was actually, so one of the folks in our Discord server brought this up, and I did not remember this from the Hobbit appendices, the special features. So I'll give a shout out to Guinevere, because Guinevere is the one who came up, who reminded me of this. That John Howe said in the Hobbit appendices that he once wrote you a fan letter and that he was still waiting for a response. And it's been a number of years since the Hobbit, so she's very, very invested in the answer to this question of whether you've written him a response to his fan letter, or if you're going to keep him waiting a little bit longer.
I have this very vague memory of getting a letter from John and then kind of putting it down somewhere, and I'm afraid this happens quite a lot, and then not finding it again because it kind of gets buried. I'm sure I still have it somewhere, but he keeps reminding me about this embarrassing fact at the most inopportune moments, you know, publicly. It's like a reproach. And but I've written quite a few sort of introductions, forewords, afterwards for his various books. So I think anything that I might say to encourage him in a response to his fan letter, I've actually said multiple times.
Yeah.
In all these forewords. So I think I might. Might be my get out.
Might be off the hook. Yeah.
Hopefully. I doubt it though.
Yeah. No.
I might actually have to do a real search and find that particular letter.
Yeah. Well, if you do have a right response, maybe you should just go ahead and frame it and then send it to him. Just frame your response so he's got it nice and he won't lose it. He can hang it on his wall and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I'd responded, I probably would have had to say something like, "You're gonna do whatever you're gonna do, whether I, encourage you or not." And see you in 20 years.
Right. Oh, now speaking of John and your guys's working together over the years, it would be malpractice of me to not ask this. So I'm going to ask it. And if you have to dodge it, I understand. But I know everyone in my comment section will be hounding me if I don't ask this. Will you be making your way to perhaps in New Zealand, working on some films that we have been told are on the way? Do you have plans for Hunt for Gollum?
I want to be helpful, and I've done a few drawings for them already. I'm not actually sure at the moment as to how much I'll be involved, whether I'll be doing it from here or whether there'll be a trip out there. I can't really say any more than that at the moment, but I really kind of wish them well, and it would be lovely to be involved. It'd be lovely to get to go back for a spell, but there's so much else happening as well. So I'm just going to have to be vague for a little bit longer, I'm afraid.
That's quite all right. We don't want to get you in trouble with anyone, so we'll let you off the hook with the vague response. That's totally fine. I did, as I was looking through kind of the history of your involvement with the films and everything. Of course, we know that every once in a while I see it shared online, the image of the 9 men doomed to die with all the cameos pointed out. So we have, you were not only one of the Nazgul back in when they were men, but you were also a man of Rohan at Helm's Deep, and you were one of the men of Lake Town. And not because there's new films necessarily, but if you were to have another cameo, I feel like now's a good time to kind of start brainstorming. What kind of other character would you be interested in playing to continue your journey in Middle Earth on screen?
Oh my God, I wasn't expecting that one.
I noticed you've been mannish characters so far. Like, do you have any interest in maybe donning a dwarf beard?
Well, I think if John Rhys Davies could pass as a dwarf, I think maybe I could.
Maybe. Yeah. Or do you want to go full board and put on orc prosthetics and everything? Like just the full treatment? I mean,
no, I've seen what that does to people. No. It's funny, when we'd go go break for lunch, you'd have all the orc extras and all the elvish extras, and they were just totally separated in the food tent. All the orcs would sit together, and they would take off their main kind of prosthetic masks, and they had their eyes would be made up, blackened, so they're sitting there looking like pandas, essentially, except for all this kind of horrible black black leather and grime. And they'd be sitting in one corner, and the elves would be sort of very aloof, sitting in another corner. They would have nothing to do with each other, you know. It's quite that was quite telling. It was a lot of fun. It was the whole thing was just such a it was just a big adventure, really. Yeah. I think everyone enjoyed themselves so much, and just for those few occasions where you get a message from the director to kind of go to the makeup tent. For some little scheme that he'd kind of got planned. He wanted to get most of the people behind the camera, to get them in front of the camera at some point. And so no, I enjoyed that. I can't think of anything that I particularly excelled at or that I particularly want to follow through on, but
now
it was fun.
I'll throw it out there that, you know, if you're wanting to stick with mannish focus, because it is nice, I'm sure, to not have to worry about the prosthetic stuff. You know, I think it would be pretty fun, but I understand that it's probably not in reality fun. It looks fun on camera, but maybe it's not actually fun. So as far as mannish characters, I will say, you haven't checked Beornings off your list. So if there's, you know, some Beorning men that come up in a future project like that could be a nice middle ground of a different variety of man that you could tackle. So with those cameos, those are kind of sprung on you, is what I kind of picked up on there. Yeah. So you don't really know until the day of, and then they say, "Hey, Alan, why don't you go over to the makeup tent?"
Yes. Well, there was one evening we were watching Rushes, and we were sitting behind Peter and Fran, and I heard my name mentioned, and Dan Henner as well, and they were both laughing. And this is they were filming Helm's Deep,
and you're like, "This can't be good."
They were both kind of giggling, and they mentioned my name, and I thought, "Oh God, what's going on?" And they'd obviously had some idea. And then the next morning, we got this message to go to makeup and costume. And we were dressed up as Rohan refugees. And it was to illustrate the line where Aragorn is looking at these wretched people, shuffling around, looking for their weapons, and basically saying to Legolas, "You know, this is going to be a disaster. Look at these guys. They're not fit for anything." Yeah. And, I
think that's when Gimli says, "Most have seen too many winters."
Yes, that's right. And so Dan Henner and myself, who kind of represented more the veteran side of the production, we were enrolled into that particular scene. Yeah.
And then you and John were together for the Lake Town one. Was that also sprung on you at the last minute?
And actually I had a terrible cold that day, but I couldn't get out of it. I was just feeling so wretched. And we both designed these instruments for the horn section, essentially, of the town band. And so we kind of invented these sort of weird instruments, and mine came back, and it was so heavy. It was like it was made out of plumbing, you know. It was just, and you had to kind of, you know, suddenly raise it to your lips and blow into this thing, and so it wasn't the most comfortable experience, but it's great. It's great fun appearing in the same shot as Stephen Fry. It's nice.
Now, again, the new set here we've got is I'm going to get my workout in again. This is the Clamshell Edition. I know you said your copy isn't at your house yet, but each one has its own shelf. I'll pull out two towers here. So it's got its own little shelf that slides into the entire packaging. I have to say, and I like the silver on the sides of the pages. And then you've got the matching art prints. You know, the ones that we showed in art prints are on the covers here as well. What's it like, you know, just having been a fan, you know, last time we talked about how you were a fan of Tolkien before you know, got into illustrating all these books and working on the films and everything. What's it like to, you know, to look at your bookshelf and have all these beautiful editions of, you know, these books that you love, but then they're also, you know, books that you've done the illustrations for. I imagine that's a pretty cool feeling.
It is. Well, I just love books anyway. I've always loved illustrated books and just books generally. So my house is just, it's like the whole thing is like a library, really. Yeah. It's and then you know, being able to add my own additions to that collection is really, really, really nice. Yeah. No, it's just a privilege. It's wonderful to have that opportunity.
Yeah. Now, it sounds like, you know, you're still full steam ahead on work. You mentioned, you know, how busy, and we were talking a little bit before we started recording about how busy you are on various projects, whether you know, public or secret for now, whatever they may be. Do you have any intention of you know, taking a more relaxed pace, or are you just full steam ahead?
Well, I think full steam ahead for me now is probably more relaxed.
Okay.
than it was. So yeah, I can't work the stupid hours that I've spent most of my life.
Gotcha.
Working. I can't do the very late nights, and so yeah, I have slowed down.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, because I remember last time we were talking about you finishing a painting at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and when the power went out.
Oh yes,
yeah. So that right. Some pretty extreme hours that you've worked in the past.
Yeah. Well, when I was working on the Lord of the Rings books, the original single Centenary edition.
Yeah.
I think there was a real kind of genuine cut-off deadline, which was to do with the fact that the book was going to be printed in China, and it had to be in China before the Chinese New Year in order to be printed in time for Tolkien's Centenary. Otherwise, it would miss that vital date. and I think the final 3 nights I went entirely without sleep.
Oh wow!
Working on that project, and it's a terrible thing to do because you make all kinds of mistakes and rash decisions.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, literally looking at this picture and seeing that it's not quite working, and then finding that you can actually make it work by cutting out 3 sides of it, you know, physically with a standing knife.
Yeah.
And I was finishing the last picture on the train on the way up to deliver.
Oh wow!
After sort of 3 nights without sleep, and I was painting in chainmail on Eowyn's mail coat on the train up to London.
Wow. Is it?
So
I would imagine that's kind of challenging on the train. Like, there's a fair amount of jostling, right, going on?
Yeah. And shaky hands.
Yeah.
And, you know.
You're probably seeing double at that point. I mean, 3 days.
The jostling probably helped with the with the chainmail.
So you're still you're still you know, going full speed, but it's a deliberate intentional full speed, more manageable full speed.
It's a kind of 3/4 speed.
3/4 speed. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, Alan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and talk about the new Clamshell Edition. Obviously, folks will have the link in the description if you're interested in taking a look and purchasing that. It's a beautiful, like I said, it's nice. I like heavy books. They feel substantial in this. Like I said, this gives me a little toning workout here. But beautiful work as always, Alan. I mean, it's no surprise, obviously, us Tolkien fans would expect nothing less. Absolutely gorgeous work. We didn't talk about this piece. Maybe we should talk about this one real quick. I really like this one. It was kind of overshadowed because I was looking at the landscape creation of the One Ring. But here we have the Siege of Minas Tirith, and it's just this really nice piece of soldiers on the wall, and we have the fire of the siege below as Minas Tirith is attacked. And this one you just made last year as well, correct?
Yeah.
We've got the I just now noticed Gandalf is on Shadowfax here as well. Oh, I love how much you like when you sit there and really look at it, you take it in, you notice more and more details, like the big Gondorian statue here. Well, thank you so much again, Alan, for joining us and sharing your insight and the process and stories from the film days and just all of it. It's an absolute treat to enjoy your work in this world that we love so much. And with every new edition, whenever there's new pieces involved, I get excited all over again to see what you've been cooking up lately. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your more deliberate 3/4 speed busy schedule.
Yes. Oh, it's such a pleasure. Well, I might wander up the cafe now with my sketchbook for a cup of tea and a quick sketch.
Get a nice sketch in, and very nice.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.
Bye. Lovely to be there.